Hello everyone, it's Petko Alexandrov, and in this lecture I will talk about the trend lines and the counter trend lines. And this is exactly the thing I use when to buy an asset, not just cryptocurrency, but many of my strategies are based on counter trend lines. Alright, so in the previous lecture we said that the trend is upwards when we have series of higher highs and higher lows, and the opposite for the downtrend. Now with such platforms we have the opportunities to draw lines, and for example I can draw some trend line that goes with the trend. Okay, this is why it's called trend line. If I click over it and I draw it, it will look something like that. Basically, to draw a line you need to have 2 points, right? I will draw it just over here, for example, and you can see this line shows the trend, right? It shows that it's an uptrend, and according to the line, when the trend is over, it should be when the price crosses the line. It's not anymore an uptrend, it turns to a downtrend, and actually it does in this case, okay, in this example. And it's the very same thing for the downtrend. When we are in a downtrend, this is when we have series of lower lows and lower highs, or we can draw a trend line starting from the top, connecting the next lower high, and you can see that I will try to make it a little bit more precisely. Okay, so the top is right over here. Try to do it very precisely if you are following a strategy with a trend line. Okay, something like that. And then you see that this trend line shows the trend when it's going down. Here it touches nearly, and there are a lot of strategies with trend lines. So for example, when the price touches the trend line, we can sell again, or if we're talking about uptrend, we can buy if the price touches, and so on. This is how we draw it. Okay, you can see after that I will need to correct it using this high over here, and here the price breaks the trend line. But in this strategy I will be using counter trend lines. I usually don't use trend lines in my trading. I use counter trend lines. What that means, we said here, I will just stick to this example because I have the arrows here. We said we are in an uptrend, and the trend line is the one that goes together with the trend, right? So the counter trend line will be just the opposite thing. We will draw lines that are opposite the major trend. For example, this one over here. Okay, how I draw it? I take the recent high, let's say the market is right over here, it forms two highs, one high and another lower high, and I take these 2 points, this one and this one, to draw the counter trend line. And this is strong because the price nearly touches it, goes down again and breaks it. Exactly this break is the thing I am using when I buy cryptocurrencies. So let me put such an arrow so you will see it better. Not really better because it goes just over the candlestick. Let me choose another symbol. I just want to take something like a circle so you can see where exactly it is. Alright, this one over here. I will make it even a little bit bigger. Alright, this one over here. So this is where I buy, and I remember actually this moment in September 2017. It was one of my entries because it matches perfectly with the strategy that I'm following, but I will complete it step by step so you will understand me easier. So one more time, the counter trend line is opposite than the trend line, and I draw it by connecting two highs. Just when I have a higher high than the previous one, I'm waiting for a lower high to draw the line. When the price breaks, this is my trigger. This is the moment when I buy and the place where I buy on the chart, okay? And you can see with TradingView, when you have a line, you have some more details about the lines, which is very nice, especially the angle. But I'm not going into such details about degrees of the counter trend line and so on. So here it is. And if I go just backwards a little bit, you will see that I have another counter trend line right over here. Okay, this one connecting this lower high, or this one first. Okay, here it is. Actually, this was the correct one, I guess. Yep, this one, because it's a little bit higher than that one. So a high, a lower high, and then the price breaks over here. And for example, here you can see that I cannot draw such a line because I don't have a lower high. The price just went up, it went down, and it went up again. But here what it does, it goes down, up, down, up, down, up, down, and up. And now let me go to the recent examples that we have in 2020. So you will see what counter trend lines I used, and it is right over here after the crash in March from the coronavirus that made not just the stocks but the cryptocurrencies to crash. But this gave me great opportunities, and not only to me but to many investors and traders, to buy at a cheaper price. And I want to be more precise in my drawings. This is why I will go to the hourly chart. Okay, let me just make it more visual. Here it is. Okay, so this is the current market that we have after the crash since March last month. So what we have, first of all, the uptrend was back after these highs were broken. Okay, so we have already series of higher highs and higher lows. Okay, this low is higher than this one, and this high is higher than this one. So after that moment, I started to look for buying opportunities. Right over here, it was really uncertain if the price will go up or it will crash lower down. So I stick to my strategy, and I was waiting to see an uptrend before buying any cryptos. And here is the first counter trend line that I used. I will take again a trend line, but I will draw a counter trend line. So this is the first counter trend line that I used. And I buy right over here. There is one more thing that I will explain in the next lecture, but this is the moment when I buy, when the price breaks this counter trend line. And we have here an impulsive break. An impulsive break is defined when we have high volume, we have it below, we have a long candlestick, we have close on extreme, which means that the candlestick will close near to the top. Okay, it will not do a move like that. You can see here it was a long candlestick, but then it didn't close on the top. Let me draw it precisely. And then the last thing for the extreme break is that the candlestick above the line should be a bigger part than below the line. Okay, so basically where it breaks, if it's like that, for example, it's in the middle, half above, half below. But if it's this way, this is like ideal. This is like the perfect example of the strategy. Alright, and later again I will show you examples where I'm executing the positions, or actually when I'm buying the cryptocurrencies. Okay, guys, because I do more videos for trading, this is why I'm talking more about executing, and I use more terms from the trading, so sorry for that. But this is exactly the perfect example of the strategy, and this is exactly where I buy cryptocurrencies with this strategy. Next counter trend line I draw only when I have a higher high than this one. So I don't draw lines over here, for example, or I don't draw lines like that. Why? Because if I do it this way, I will have hundreds of examples. Okay, if I zoom the chart, you will see that I can draw so many different lines, but no, I want to have a very clear counter trend line. So I have the top, I have the lower high, and then I'm looking for a new higher high than this one to draw the next counter trend line. Okay, here it is. This is the high. So this is exactly where my next counter trend line was, and it's right here. Okay, price breaks, it goes down sideways and it continues higher. So we have a high, and again we have opportunity to draw counter trend line. And let me try to make it a little bit more visual. Okay, here it is. I think this way it is more visual, or even, yeah, this way here. So now it really depends when you catch it. For example, here you can draw a counter trend line like that, right? Which is pretty strong because it has 1, 2, 3, 4 touches and then the price breaks impulsively. Or if you just catch it a little bit early and a little bit faster, you can draw it this way here, which is the thing I did, but there is something here that doesn't allow me to buy from this strategy, and this is the thing I will talk about in the next lecture. So here was the counter trend line, which turned out to be a strong one because the price touched it a few times and then it broke. And then you can see that actually the price retested it. If I extend the line, okay, the price retested it and it continued higher. Now after that we had a higher high, okay, it's higher than this one, or this high was broken, in other words. Then what I had is I had this line right over here. Here it is. And I will need to zoom to make it even better. You can see it's exactly through this lower high. And then I had just one more opportunity right over here. So let's say we are at this moment, and yep, here it is. It's still a counter trend line, and then the price went aggressively higher in April. Now, these all were opportunities for me to buy, and I used them, and it's really a lot of patience here to wait for the counter trend line. And if you look at the whole thing, you will see that we're in an uptrend, right? But I want to buy just when the price pulls back, which is very normal on the market, and just before it starts to go up again, I will buy. Price goes up and down, forms higher high, higher lows, then it fails to take the high, then I draw the counter trend line, and when it breaks it, I buy, and I buy again, and I buy again, and I buy again. Alright, so these are the different entries for me when I'm investing in cryptocurrencies, and there is one tiny little thing that I use or that I'm looking for before I buy, and I will show you that in the next lecture, so stay with me.